Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me.
Hello, good morning. So let's just start off the episode by letting you know that I feel nauseous. My head hurts, and I'm sure my voice will get louder as I get more passionate about what I'm saying because that's typically what happens. And I know some of you who are longtime listeners are like, why are you recording today if you feel like shit? Well, because I have something I want to talk about. And that's important to me. Sometimes my emotional recovery and like my state of mind, there's like something I want to talk through because I know that I'm going to have a better day if I talk through it. Not that I'm having, it's interesting. So those of you who are in full-time recovery because of a disability or chronic pain or what have you, sometimes like it's important to address what's going on between my ears from the emotional pain standpoint, regardless of how I'm feeling physically. And that's where I'm at. Okay. That's just where I'm at. And, I'm very good at making excuses for why I'm going to record my podcast today. So let's just get started. I went to church on Sunday and it was a couple months. Surprisingly, it was a couple months since I actually showed up in person because I had so many things that were going on. And because of that, I was dealing with like recovering from an activity and stuff. So I just never like balancing my priorities and knowing that, okay, church is something that I can attend online always if I can't show up in person. So I had been showing up online and listening as opposed to showing up in my fancy new hats that I've been buying to protect my eyes from the church lights. And my dress, which I love, showing up to church in my dress, but dresses. I had been not going, but I'm still caught up on the sermons. And so on Sunday, he was talking about, the pastor that is, was talking about um who is sitting on the throne, who or what is sitting on the throne of our lives. And I thought, recovery, alcoholism, stroke recovery. I was like, man, that's what I like about church is that it very much aligns with um, recovery because it's all about really living better. And those of you who are longtime listeners know that I'm on this long lifetime journey. It's aren't we all, of understanding who my higher power is, but really coming to the conclusion 5 years ago when I had my stroke that I needed even more than I ever did, just becoming sober. So when I was in reflection during the sermon, I was thinking, I just kept going back. I took notes in my Remarkable tablet, and I just kept going back to how alcohol was sitting on the throne of my life. And you don't have to be religious to see the message that was coming across in church. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about like being released from that feeling of captivity. Although like here's me and my life, and then I have this thing that I revolve my life around, however you want to look at it, revolve my life around. I put it on the throne, I worship it, regardless of what you call it. It's like that thing drops a cage around you, and it's like that I'm in captivity. And freedom from alcohol lifted the cage ever so slightly. You know, what they talk about in the big book is um, cracking the door open, like willingness cracks the door open, and for you to start walking through and being introduced to this way of life that is sobriety, that is the recovery program. So I'm just changing that visualization to um, how removing the alcohol from my life really just took the lock off the cage, like lifted it ever so slightly. So the question is, if I don't have this thing that's sitting on the throne of my life, and this isn't to offend anybody who, I don't think it will, but who has God on the throne of their life. I realize that in your life, that is what you need on the throne of your life, but it's different for everybody. I mean, that's just the fact. So um, regardless, okay, so we've got alcohol on the throne of our lives, and we remove it, then what's going to guide our new life? What is it? Um, so I wanted to look at that in my life, because that's what I come here for, is to talk about my experience, talk through like how, because I can think clearer now that I've been sober for a few 24 hours, and try to talk through what that felt like for me to see if maybe that may resonate with other people. So, recovery, I walk into sobriety, I remove that thing. What do I replace it with? I need to replace it with something healthier. And I think we all organize our lives around something. Very, very obvious to me that when I got sober and I went through, you know, the hardcore, going through the steps, figuring out how to apply the steps in my life. And then another problem pops up. How do I apply the steps in my life in this situation? You know, and walking through these things and starting to build a toolkit for myself, starting to collect experiences that I can refer back to. Um, I started to be able to live. I started to be able to have like a reference guide for, okay, this is how you dealt with this in the past. So this might work in this situation too. When I free up my mind to be able to reference back to experiences instead of constantly trying to figure out like, how to apply the solutions of the program to my life, I start having room to live. And what I did with that room is I put something new on the throne, and that was my career. Period. Full stop, for sure. That's what became um, core in my life. I mean, my kids had grown up, they went out to college, they graduated, and that was actually my daughter, my daughter hadn't graduated yet before my stroke, because she graduated after my stroke. But so I'm in this frame of mind where I'm like, yeah, I can take on the world. Like, I'm so much smarter than I used to be. That's funny to me right this minute, because I say often that my stroke makes me feel like I became dumber. And that's unfortunate, and that's something I'm working through, but it's the reality of how I feel on some days, that I just feel stupid. But what's interesting is when I got sober and before my stroke, that 5 years in between there, I felt like almost to a blown up ego that I was really, really smart. I could figure things out that I couldn't figure out before. Um, Not just from a life perspective, but from an intellectual perspective. Like, I felt like I was growing brain cells, man. So I was building my life around that schedule, and that my career um, took the driver's seat. It did. It took the driver's seat, and my emotions, my priorities, and my decisions became centered around my career. Just the way that they did when I was drinking. Like when I was drinking, every decision revolved around drinking. Um, when I first got sober and I'm trying to learn the steps of the program, every decision I made revolved around um, how do I not drink? So recovery took the driver's seat, which is interesting. It's an interesting realization that, and I'm going to talk about this another day, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how it pans out. But is when recovery took the driver's seat in my life, when the recovery took the throne, where was my family? What how did the family deal with me after I got sober? Like, how does our relationship change with our family during that time where recovery is on the throne? So, okay. So then my career became my, the thing on the throne, recovery. Oh yeah, recovery, then the career. Then I had a stroke. And what showed up on the throne? Um, I think that was part of the problem. Like if I'm just shooting from the hip, it feels like the throne was empty. It felt like um, I lost my purpose. Many people in stroke recovery call it a loss of identity, and I get that. I did a whole episode on that. Sometimes I have to really massage that idea to make me to really understand that I lost my identity because I tend to be like, no, I'm still who I am, but it's like what I can do, my capabilities. It's like that I'm stupider than I used to be feeling. So all of that is lost, like understanding who I am again. It's like I don't even know who I am now with this disability, with all that I've lost, with my career, like the thing that was on the throne just fell off. It just fell off. What do I do with that? Like, it's like I got sucked into a vacuum. And I knew after I had the stroke and I was receiving from many of you even who've been listening for a long time, I received gifts in the mail. I received flowers and plants and like stuff to do. Even the simplest little like meditative sand garden I received. Like all of these things made me feel like everybody was moving at the pace that I was moving. The thing fell off the throne, my career fell off the throne, and everybody stopped with me and tried to pick up the pieces, at least tried to throw some soft blankets down for me to land on. And what I knew during that phase, that time when I was receiving all of this love and support, not that I don't still receive so much, but then it was like, you know, I felt like the world was thinking of my world was thinking of me, and I wasn't going to be left behind. But I knew, okay, to my point that I keep stalling on, I knew that when the cards stopped, when the plants stopped coming, when I was left without my career and with chronic pain and an inability to see, an inability to communicate using digital devices because I couldn't use them without pain, that I was going to feel left behind. And And that's how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. Um, I didn't have any place to put that addictive personality. Um, my addiction will never disappear. And I heard somebody say, I think it was yesterday, it just changes clothes. So my addiction, once alcohol, then recovery, then my career, it just simply changes clothes. Whether it, it clearly, like it's starting to become clear to me as I'm talking, the crafting, the painting, the vintage jewelry ornaments that I'm making, all of these ways that I immerse myself into creativity, I think creativity has taken the throne. And I don't know that that's what I want on the throne. Okay, that's why I wanted to talk about this. So that thing that can occupy the throne can be all of the things I listed. It can be exercise, which, come to think of it, in during that time before my career, like between recovery being on the throne and my career becoming on the throne, exercise was on the throne. And I revolved my life around running a 5K. That's not a bad thing, but there are always, I think, there's room for improvement with what's on the throne. These things shouldn't be on the throne. And because what I tend to do is stop caring for myself, my body, my emotional sobriety when I put something on the throne that doesn't belong there. There are people that put social media on the throne, and we know what what disaster that is. There are people that put success on the throne. Like during my career, I would say that's related, where I'm like, my goal, it's like my goal is what's on the throne. And those are two different things. So helping other people can be on the throne. Um, so even in recovery itself, I continue to, I think, travel through what works for me. There's nothing wrong with that. None of those are bad. But the problem is when we put something on the throne that becomes the source of our identity, the source of our worth, the source of our feeling of security and peace and serenity. I think that it challenges or works in parallel with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, we trying to figure out, like, these are my needs, but none of them should sit on the throne. Is how I'm thinking it through, because I need community, like has Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I need security. I need community. I need um, these things that I can't think of off the top of my head, but none of them should sit on the throne. Um, my career, accomplishments, my podcast, my book, um, my health, surprisingly, cannot sit on the throne. I mean, I'm thinking out loud because that's what I do. None of these things were designed to tell me who I am. These are all temporary things. And temporary things make this is what I heard somebody say. Where did I hear this? Oh, it was in church. That's what we're talking about. Temporary things make a terrible foundation for permanent change, right? Temporary things make a terrible foundation for permanent change. Careers end even when you don't think they're going to. Lived experience. So careers end, children grow up, our bodies change. I'm laughing because recently I'm like, I think this is just the way my body's going to be now, you know? I I'm going to shiny coin this for a second. I've always been used to having a more slender stomach and bigger legs, and things seem to be moving against gravity, which is odd. And the middle is getting bigger, and the legs seem to be getting smaller. But it's not small enough, nothing's ever good enough. But anyway, it's funny because things are changing, right? My point is things that I thought were permanent change. My health, even in this state of having a permanent disability, it changes. It changes on a daily basis. My friends change. Um, our identity can't be built on changing things because that means that our peace is changing. Our understanding, our conception of serenity is changing. So when I think about today, I think about what this is what the sermon encouraged. Think about what worries you today. Like, think about what bothers you the most. I was listening this morning, and there's a gentleman who is going through a hard time in my program. I don't know the specifics, but he mentioned the thing that's bothering him the most is the flat tire on his new car. And I found that to be, isn't that just the way that we get so consumed by everything around us that we have no choice but to obsess over something that's most comfortable to obsess about. So when I get full of fear about my future as a disabled American or whatever, disabled person, human being, when I think about how sometimes I feel like I'm in a hamster wheel and I feel like, where am I going? What does the future hold for me? Then I can start obsessing or worrying about something that doesn't really matter. Um, and that's not to judge myself, but it's a great learning opportunity to, at any given moment, just stop again, the pause, and think about, what am I worried about right now? Um, if I were to think about today, what am I worried about? Um, I would say I'm worried about my craft show coming up at the end of September and making sure I have enough inventory of my vintage jewelry ornaments. My worries are, when am I going to actually finish my book? Is this going to be like a freaking 5-year project? Or am I going to start really having it unfold a little faster, which is starting to happen a little bit. But when these things are my worries, then something's missing. Like for me, something's missing. If that's what I'm worried about, quote unquote, worried about, there's so many easy solutions to these little ankle biters. So this is what he said. He said, the pastor said, what am I holding on to? Okay, that's the stuff I'm worrying about. And then flip the script and say, what is holding on to me? What do I feel? Is that cage dropping down again? Is something starting to restrict my capacity to reach out to be further? I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs again. The thing at the very top, I can't think of the word right now. My excuse is that I had a stroke, but it's like achieving that greatest um, state of living, mindset of living. What's keeping me from that? What's holding me down? Um, is it my own ambitions? Am I not looking high enough? You know, like they say, if you reach for the moon, you might just touch the stars. Are my ambitions holding me back? Um, or am I doing what is good and sustainable for me in this permanent, lifetime of recovery that I'm in? Are my relationships holding me back a little bit? Are they holding me, I should say? Are my possessions holding me? Do I find myself on Amazon constantly trying to fill in the gaps? Yes, I do. um, are my routines holding me? Or am I holding my routines? Are my dreams holding me or am I holding my dreams? Like, what does that mean? It means, can I set them down when I choose to? Or does it own me? Does it consume me? That is my addictive frame of mind. And that being able to look at it from that perspective teaches me the difference between enjoying what I'm doing or depending on what I'm doing, right? I think that I get into this frame of mind where I'm depending on this painting, this beautiful painting of my dog that I keep looking at that I'm going to be done with this month. This month. Check the status on Facebook. But am I looking to enjoy the finishing brush, the final brush strokes, or am I depending on the feeling of achievement when I've finally finished? Miley Cyrus, it's the ride, not the destination. It all of that seems intertwined to me. So I'm glad that I'm just kind of sitting down to talk about it. Um, I think one of the greatest, like, what the key to the message is for me today, as I'm talking through it, is the pause. A lot of times, I think that pause is magical. I think that emotional sobriety can only grow when I'm quiet. If my mouth is running, if I'm painting, if I'm making jewelry. Emotional sobriety, I think today, this is what I think, has stood still. That's not a bad thing because I have it, but it's not growing. I'm enjoying it. Um, when I stop and I allow life, I allow myself to just be, there's so much in that space. It helps me feel like a little girl again, where I don't have to have the answers. I don't have to react. I don't have to solve whatever problem is in front of me. The growth is when I stop trying to force things and I become willing to watch, to listen. Um, and I think with regard to the steps and the program of sobriety, I think that I'm learning, and it's never past tense, how to do that pause through taking inventories, going to meetings, learning how to meditate. You know, they call it meditation. It's a practice, and I think it's super, super helpful. I'm not going to go down the meditation shiny coin path, but it's yet another tool that can help us learn how to stop and just be. And I think meditation helps me to know what to do. What do I do while I'm being? Am I listening? Am I looking? Am I closing my eyes? Like, what does being mean for me? And that's what practicing meditate, quote unquote, practicing meditation helps. Conversations with other people in my fellowship, conversations like this, like showing up for my podcast and just sitting and talking about what something means to me. I think that creates wisdom. Like that quiet reflection creates wisdom. So, um, I'm still a little like caught up in the idea of dreams versus goals versus what's sitting on the throne. So I have to have dreams. I have to have goals. Goals are healthy. It gives me purpose. But any of these things quickly becomes an obsession for me. So what I think the question is, what is the dream or goal serving in my recovery? Because that tendril links over to my values. And my values are guided by what's sitting on the throne. Um, I'm speechless. I've left myself speechless. What's at the center of my recovery? Um, what I want it to be is my higher power. I want my higher power to be at the center of my recovery, of my life. Um, and I think every day I've been working on that in all of these different ways with trying to work on my perspective by having willingness, by being honest with myself and being honest with other people, by being trying to be humble I have a hard time being humble. No, I don't, but I definitely have an ego. By being grateful and by having feeding, nurturing connections and appreciating the fact that I'm a human being among human beings and that I was not meant to live this life alone. My purpose does not outweigh others' purposes. Per pie. Um, so all of these things I think are aligned with having my higher power be on the throne. And that's good. So I think like talking through all of this and understanding like I think that I'm doing it right. I think that I give myself grace, you know. But the pastor asked something important. And I want to see if I have exactly how he worded it. So, live action, I put it in my church notes. So, I'm going to pull up my church notes. Right. It was just the question is not, do I believe in God? I mean, lately I've been saying, if somebody were to ask me, do I believe in God? I would say, I want to. So the question is not, do I believe in God? The question is, do I have him on the throne? Interesting, huh? Whatever sits up there on that throne will direct my thoughts, my emotions, my priorities, my decisions, and ultimately direct my everyday life. So alcohol used to be there. And today I have the opportunity to put whatever I want on the throne. And I think as I look back on my journey with that, I feel proud of myself, really. I feel proud of myself that I have found this way to having something, my concept of God on the throne. Whether I can confidently say I believe or not, He is my concept, is what is directing me today. And that's that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. So I'm gonna end there. And thanks for listening to me ramble. And have a great day. And I will talk to you next time.